Hey guys, David, welcome back.
Awesome.
Welcome to the show. This is a crazy studio you got set up for me, so I really appreciate you having me in here and giving me the chance to chop it up with you.
Perfect, for sure. Yeah, well, this is welcome to the Lake City podcasting studio
Awesome.
right now. Happy to have you over, and do you know what? Like, it's so awesome to see local people that are doing things outside the box and doing things in a non-traditional way. And honestly, it's like episode 45 right now. That's amazing to think the content you've been pushing out there and doing it on a consistent basis, which is amazing. So
thank you, man. I really appreciate that, and it means a lot, especially knowing that you guys have almost 100. You were just saying almost 100 episodes now, over a year, almost over a year.
Yeah,
just there. What is it, 2 more weeks?
2 more weeks and we'll be at, about a week and a half and we're going to hit our 1 year mark of Selling the Rock, which is our active podcast right now. We have a few, in our office we have 3 total podcasts. One of mine's on a hiatus right now, but the real estate one is the one that I'm staying consistent with on a weekly basis and pumping out the content as much as I can, right? So
that's awesome. That's the way to go. So then let's take a bunch of steps back. What was kind of your quote-unquote life after high school like? Or was that transitional period like for you to kind of now how you are?
So like I went to hii school just down the street, which is a small world, right at Lockerbie, and so grew up in the south end of town kind of thing. Going around to which university I'm going to go to after. I ended up going to the Wrench-In, which was, it turned out to be a great school. It's where I met my wife, which is fantastic. Nice. Shout out to Allie. Thanks for all the support. So going through my university, I took a commerce degree, and I think I realized after while I'm doing my commerce degree that commerce doesn't set you up for a job; it sets you up for an education, right? Where my wife's a nurse, so you take a nursing degree to get a job
in nursing,
and most of these a lot of people think you're going to school to get a job after,
right?
And that's not the case for a lot of post-secondary education, right? So I took a commerce degree. I'm like, what am I going to do? Am I going to do an accountant with it, or am I going to do finance? And marketing was kind of one of my passions with it, so I focused on marketing and finance. And after doing some marketing, I was able to set myself up out of university with a job, and that was success for me. Is having a job before I graduate was that's what I've made it, right? It was the worst experience I've ever had, and sorry for all those those people that I worked with for that year. But it just wasn't fun. You can tell when you're in a position and you're passionate about what you're doing and you're making a difference. And sure, there was some highs of the job at the time, but I wasn't myself. I wasn't able to kind of flex my muscles in terms of doing what I wanted to do creatively and having fun with life. So, but I think that's so important to learn at a young age is what do you like to do and what do you not like to do.
Right.
And there's so many people that are stuck at 45 or 55 in a job they don't love.
Yeah, and they can't, at that point, right, how hard is it to get out?
Yeah, exactly, right? So, the idea of being able to, have that realization at, in my, 1 year out of university was amazing. Yeah. The idea that I could actually set up and be like, no, you know what, this is what I'm passionate about. Let's go find what that door is going to look like and then, pursue that and go from there.
Now, with that being said, how did you discover that marketing was more where your passion should be focused on?
Marketing was the fun part of it, where it's the creative thinking. But right from a kid, I was a Monopoly player, right? I ran I was a newspaper deliverer at 5 years old. We lived on a cul-de-sac, and there was 4 houses I delivered a newspaper to, right? So I've always had that entrepreneurial spirit. Even during university, I ran 3 different businesses, one of the student works painting business, another painting business kind of thing. So I was always looking for an entrepreneurial endeavor, and I love the idea of creating my own destiny. Right. So that's where I knew that was going to be a passion and something I'm going to be pushing myself towards eventually. And that's where fast forward a few years and this is where I am right now.
So with that then, how did you transition that into, with your marketing skills and your finance skills, into now you own Lake City Realty?
Yeah. So jumping out, again, having that 1 year experience where I realized I'm doing something I don't love. My dad was a real estate agent at the time. He said, "Come join me." That was my foot in my door, right? So I remember showing up and doing my real estate education, which it's compared to I just finished a 4-year degree, so it wasn't that much. It wasn't that complicated. And getting into the field, and I remember my dad gave me a list of old file decisions, here, call these people. This is the business, and I was able to kind of, we came up at a time, like, I remember I was the first agent on Kijiji, right? Like, I was, like, using social media and technology when other agents were dinosaurs and weren't using that technology. But we're talking in 2007, right? So, like, this is a long time compared to now. And I think the idea of just trying to look at things differently and trying to approach the world and the industry from a different perspective, and you know what, like try to have fun with it. And still to this day, one of my pet peeves about realtors is the idea that we're all the same. There's the picture of us in a black and white suit, and we're like this, like we're all individuals, and we all have personalities, and we're passionate about things, and like go in on who you are and be authentic to yourself, and then everything else is going to come from there. So
I like what you said there, because I've noticed a lot, to your point, a lot of other real estate groups in the city, they all have that, like you said, like, not your words, mine, like an uptight look, in my opinion. That's just my opinion, right? And then seeing you guys, like, you're bored just out front on the side, right? You guys are all laughing, having a good time. Man, like, it's more, I feel, from somebody walking by or driving by or biking by, anything, it's a more welcoming atmosphere you give off even without entering the door.
I think at the end of the day, like people, you're going to attract like people to your business, right? And like it's easy. I remember being young. I was 22 or 23 when I first became a realtor, and you got to fake it till you make it in your mind. I got to like look like a professional, and like as a small little like a story, like to go on a little bit of a tangent, but my graphic designer. So I went, like, I was maybe 4 or 5 years in, and I created Team Kurt. It was me and my dad, right? And I'm like, Dad, we got to go get suits on, and we got to, like, you know, black and white shirts, and like, look super official, and like do those, like, and she's like, Dave, you sure? Like this isn't really you. And I'm like, no, I gotta fake it till I make it. Like I made sure, like, my first car to school was like I drove a Mercedes, and it was like, you know, like, so that was like all important to me to have that image, right? What? And
that's
then
incredible.
But then. Like fast forward to like when I that was Team Kurt, and we had fun with him, we were successful, whatever, different levels. And then when I was actually creating Lake City Realty, I went to that same graphic designer. They're amazing over at it will come to me. Megan's Michaud is her name, and she's absolutely she's a rock star. Nice. But the name will come to me too. Sorry, but when I sat down with her again, I'm like, this is my vision, and she's like, Dave, this is you. I'm like, I want to be the anti-realtor. I want to be the guy that doesn't look like this. Like, what's the opposite of that? Like, and that's why we're colorful and we're bubbly and we're fun and like be authentic to who you are, and things are just gonna happen, right? So.
No, I like. She's one who designed your logo, eh?
Yeah, she did the logo. She did,
that was one thing I was thinking about too. I was like, man, I gotta compliment him on his logo. It's sick. She did a great job.
There was so much time and effort and went into that, like, to find something so simple, but yet that message. And like they do such an awesome job that they actually take it and they're like, you're sitting in a room looking out of a house and it's shaped like a window. So like they gave thought process from that, which is different levels than I'm even thinking about. Yeah.
I'm thinking about it, and I'm thinking what the logo looks like now. Like, how? Well, that's why they paid the big bucks to do it, right?
Exactly, yeah. Well, and you know what? Like, that's what you deal with. And we've got so much local talent in the north that, like, these people are right around us. And I know that their business has grown internationally and things like that. But these are just, like, 3 girls that are started this amazing business out of Sudbury. Like, you know, that the Design Diploma is the name of it, by the way. And they're here, and they're doing amazing things, right? So it's just great to see.
Nice. So transitioning also a little bit into like the housing market and everything, what's going on now. So I was talking on my trip out west. I have a few friends who are all, and we have a weird wavelength between all of us where I'll send a message to one of them, he'll be typing the similar thing right to me. You know, one of those friends, right? We all have them. And I was like, hey man, what's the real estate market like out there? And he's like, man, I was just thinking about investing. And I'm like, all right, sounds good. Like, I'm in that industry I want to buy buildings, rent out rooms, live in one as it kind of develops, and they kind of had the same vision for what they wanted as a way to almost start out. Now, with that being said, what are some tips for a young adult, say 25?
Well, there's actually a term it's called house hacking. Right, like, so it's like what you're trying to do right now is described as like it's called house hacking, where you buy something that's cheap, you live in the crummier apartment, and you rent out the nice part, and then you know when you can generate enough cash flow, then you take the increase in the equity there, whether you've put it in from sweat equity, where you've actually like improved the place because you put the basement apartment in, or you did a kitchen and a bathroom with your labor.
You did your renovations.
Yeah, and then like whatever that's going to appraise at, then you pull the equity out up to 80%, and then you finance your next place because you can buy the next house for 5% down, and then maybe do it again, and you climb the ladder, and you know before you know it, you can have 5 or 6 of these things, right? So
it's just a matter of like kind of I guess what I'm wondering is getting into it initially.
Buying your first house is the toughest.
Yeah.
Buying house 2 to 10 is easy.
That's what everyone says.
Like buying your first house is the toughest part of it because again, you got to like 5% down in this marketplace. Our average price point is like $350. That's a lot of cash. Like you're coming up with $20,000. Where's somebody on the street coming up with $20,000? That's tough to do. That's a lot of savings. But like on house number 2, your house appreciated because the market went up, and then you did a kitchen or you did some bathrooms and you did the work yourself. Well, all that's added to the value, and now that's increased your value.
And now, is that added value? Is that the equity that you?
That's the equity.
That's what. Okay.
And then that's what you get access to the equity to the tune of 80% or whatever when you're going to refinance, and that's how you're able to leverage the equity to plot property number 2. And when you're going to buy your principal residence, you only need 5% down. Right. So maybe the next house is going to be $350 again. You need $20,000, but all of a sudden, the market's gone up. Like in the South End, the market's gone up like $70,000 year over year for an average house. So like just by living in the same house,
just in this COVID time,
just in this COVID time, basically, 12 months ago, like we've already had massive increases. So like that's allowing people to go buy their second and third places.
Right. Now, with that, I guess I'm really curious because. Now, it's first house number 1, right, the hard part. What makes it so difficult? Is it just that it's a new experience for people and they aren't really sure? Or do you notice there's a lot of commonalities where they just don't have enough money built up or not enough credit?
I think that there's... you're out of school, you're 25 years old, right? So you paid for your education, probably. So like you probably have some student debt even, right? That you're trying to pay back, that kind of thing, right? And it's the idea that you've got to save up. Like, I've got clients out there that are shopping now, and it's like, what can I get at 200? And to be honest, you're not getting a lot. Yeah. And like to buy 200,000, that's $10,000 plus down, right? So like who's got $10,000 sitting in a sock drawer? Not a lot of people. Yeah. Right. So like that's the tough part, is to be in a position where you can have the stars align, that you've got the down payments, and that's why we've seen marketplaces that have really exploded, like Southern Ontario marketplaces. Man, like most of that money that comes in is from parents, and parents are writing checks for because they look at it and they say, I bought a house in 1980s, my stock markets have gone up and down, maybe they're worth a little bit more. But you know what's been really great is the house that we bought in Toronto in 1980 for $180,000 is now worth $1.2 million. Yeah. So they're saying the real estate's been the best investment I've ever made, and I want my kids to benefit from this. Right. So they're pulling $200,000 out,
and they can afford to do that
because of the increase in equity. And they're like, they're going to get it, in a will eventually. So why not to give it to them in
sooner? And they can kind of see the
sooner. But when you have this happening, now you're creating an artificial, you're adding some artificial supply into the demand to the marketplace, because these people that are buying that couldn't afford a house are now artificially able to afford a house. And because they're buying, that's putting more pressure on prices, and and putting more pressure on the overall marketplace, which is increasing prices. So it's been a tough marketplace, and at the end of the day, the government realizes that they've done this, and they don't want it to stop, because they've controlled interest rates on the back end, where basically free money, interest rates are just over 1% now. So they don't want to see the housing market take a tumble or anything like that. So even if they see it happening, they're going to be controlling interest rates on the back end, or now the thing that the government's looking at doing is increasing amortizations back to 50-year mortgages. So they're going to do whatever they can to make sure that people are in a good foothold position.
So now I'm curious, because comparing markets, for example, if we say Ottawa versus Sudbury, what kind of drives the difference?
Ottawa is it's a unique one that you grabbed out of thin air there, and the reason that's unique is because of the amount of government workers, and the government workers are constant, and they're continuous, and it's still people will leave Sudbury because they're looking for the big city, and they'll go to Ottawa. Yeah. Right. So that's kind of where somebody from Sudbury is going to be well, I don't want Toronto, but I want a big city living, so I'm going to go to 1 million or whatever it is down in. But people from Kirkland Lake and from North Bay and from Sault Ste. Marie and from New Liskeard, they leave those northern area towns and they go for the big city and they come to Sudbury. Yeah. So we have that inflow as well, right? And it's so we have it not to the same degree that a city like Ottawa would have, but we still we're the hub of the north in Sudbury, and that's made us such a strong opportunity for the continued and sustainable growth for what we've experienced. And from what I've heard in stats is we haven't really increased as a population. I think looking at since COVID happened, we're going to look back on these stats and we're going to realize we grew 5%.
Nice. Now, I picked that example specifically because that's where there were 5 of us that went on the trip. 2 of us live in Sudbury, and then the 3 of them live in Ottawa, and I went to school there. So for 4 years when I was there, I was with them, I was hanging out, drinking with them, doing all the fun stuff. And when we went on the trip together and we talked about this, so that's why Ottawa fuels that location. But one of the buddies was asking me, and I'm curious about this as well, What are some almost hidden fees that are there when you're buying your initial house?
So when you're buying your initial house, they actually want to see, like, the banks want to see, like, behind the scenes 2%. 2% of extra. So you have your 5% down, they want to see 2% of what they call closing costs. So, like, and now it's never really 2% because you like, you're buying your first home, your land transfer tax, which is the biggest part of that 2%, is going to be free up to about a $380,000 house. So basically, there's this extra tax that the provincial government charges when you purchase your first house. When you purchase any house, that's like it's almost equivalent to 0.75%. So $750 per every $100,000 you buy.
Okay,
so it ends up being a few $1,000s when you're buying a house.
Yeah, nothing substantial, but still
it's all numbers that kind of work into the whole the grand scheme, right? So the banks want to see that you have your 5% down in your bank account, but plus 2%, and that's going to cover things like home inspections, which are 500-ish. Yeah. It's going to cover things like maybe you have to pay an increase in utilities because you've never had utilities in your name, and it needs to be like a transfer there. It's going to cover things like that land transfer tax. It's going to cover things like lawyer fees. It covers like that grand scheme of things.
Now, where does CMHC come into the play?
So CMHC comes into play with, like, if you, like, we just talked about, you're buying a $300,000 house and I've got 5% down, $15,000. Like, that's a lot of cash. Well, it is a lot, but it's not $300,000. Like the government's putting, like, the banks are putting the money at risk. Right. And if the market price goes down like 5%, now you actually are what's called, like, you have no equity because, like, you put 5% down, but, like, your house is only worth like what your mortgage is worth right now. Yeah. So whenever they see that anybody that's putting less than 20% down on a house, they see that as a risky endeavor. And because there's risk, they want to have an insurance company insure the mortgage. So it could be Genworth, it could be CMHC, and there's Canada Maple, I think, or Canada Trust. Like, those are the three main companies that we hear about in those worlds. But they're there to give an insurance policy for that mortgage at the end of the day. So anybody that puts down less than 20% is a kind of as a rule of thumb, has to get an insurance policy, and therefore that's when they're tying themselves to that Genworth or CMHC.
Oh, okay, and that's where they come in,
and there's extra fees through them as well. Yeah. And the biggest part that, like, people don't realize is, like, so, like, I think it's about 1%. It's phased. So as you put down 5%, it's something. If you put down 10, it's something else. You put down 15, it decreases to the lowest level.
Right, and it's up to 20.
And at 20%, it's eliminated basically. Yeah, for a residential standpoint. But, like, that fee is going to be added to the mortgage and then amortized over the life of the mortgage. But they actually will charge you the HST of that at the lawyers on closing. So there's an extra couple $100 fee that they're hitting on the CMHC fee, the taxes for it on closing. So there is a lot of those extra little things that happen.
Because from what my knowledge is about this is, I'm in the realm of saving 20% of $250,000. That's my goal, right? That's the goal before I make. But 20% of $250,000 is not a little amount of money. Oh. And then I'm thinking 20% because of what you said, right? Where it's, I don't want as simply as I can explain this is, at least in my head, I'm trying to verbalize it for you, right? But yeah, I want to less risk, right? Yeah. If, hey, I pay more up front, costs me less down the road on interest, because I'm sure their interest rate isn't the lowest thing.
It's funny when you mention interest rates, because, like, if you get a CMHC insured mortgage, you'll actually get a better rate than if you get an uninsured mortgage. And the reason is, like, if you'd put down 20%, now the bank's money's at risk. Whereas if you put down 5% CMHC's money, like, you have an insurance policy where, like, if I put down 20% on a house, now I don't have an insurance policy. So the bank's actually feeling like, because of that, like, you get a slightly better rate, which is, like, I think it's a BS, but it's tied to it at the back end. It is what it is. Yeah. But your thought process works well if you're in a position where, like, like, you're close to that 20% level or whatever. But most people are not going to see like 50,000 plus of that savings they need to be able to put down 20% on a house like that. No. So because of that, like, why wait if you could put down, like, if housing makes sense for you, and it doesn't make sense for everybody, but if it makes sense for you, especially somebody that's handy and you've got a construction background, then why not get into something that with $12,000 down and start putting put $10,000 in renovations, and maybe you've already gained that equity of that extra $30,000 or so.
Interesting. So that could almost fast track.
It's leverage, right? So, like, you're able to leverage the bank's money, and, like, if you take these rich dad poor dad sessions and things like that, they call it OPM.
Yeah, I've read that book twice.
Yeah, other people's money, right? So you want to leverage other people's money, and that's why, like, so, like, that you go in and you don't use your money, you use the bank's money, or use like the seller's money, vendor take back, or whatever the case might be, kind of thing. So, but the idea of leverage is there. At the end of the day, I'm a big fan of slow, meticulous, steady, well thought out growth.
Yeah, very methodical approach.
Yeah. Don't grow too fast. Don't like. And I remember hearing a story when I first got into business that there was somebody in Sudbury that bought 87 houses in 3 years, and I'm like, wow, like that's nuts. Like this exists in Sudbury in like 2008 or 2009 or something like that. But it was just like, that's not for me, you know. Like slow, steady, maybe like one or like chip away, get an investment every year for whenever you can. It makes sense to you guys. Like that makes sense to me.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. That makes a lot more sense. I was always on the fast track thinking for me was always, if I save 20%, then I won't have the interest that CMHC charges.
It's like we're talking like you wanted to save up $50,000 so that you could save $2,000 over the grain of a mortgage, but at the same time, like
exactly,
if you would have bought a house last year, and I don't want to be somebody that says that my house is going to go up every year or whatever, but like just the difference in the house prices last year to this year is like we've already grown 10%, which is like we went from 300 to 340, right? So
right, and just from somebody who's just around the community, and every time I'm like, oh, that house sold pretty quick. It's like it's definitely a seller's market. It feels like
we've never experienced it like I've been in it since 2007, so I've never seen an active as a seller's market as 2020 has been.
Yeah.
Now it's taken a step back, and it's like the last few weeks, but there's seasonality to the marketplace, right? Like I remember pulling up.
I was just listening to you mention this on your podcast.
So I remember pulling up some stats, and like there was like January 15th at the time when I did the research was like the cheapest day of the year to buy a house, and May 15th is the most expensive day of the year to buy a house. So if you're buying, that's when you want to buy is January 15th, and if you're selling, you want to sell at May 15th kind of thing. But at the end of the day, like, who likes to move in the winter? Like, we have snow out there right now. Like, picture packing up your house and trudging it like through like moving vans and you know, like, so like most people like that's one pain point, and because that pain point's there, then there will be less buyers, and because there's less buyers, then the market might be easier, right? So all those things kind of work out.
Right. It's a matter of almost think it's best to get like buy in this time, deal with the cold. Deal with it all as long as your house has heating. I guess it's all right, and then start it so that it's ready for summertime.
If that makes sense to you, but then you have an asset that's a couple $100,000 asset that's sitting there, is like just sitting idle that's not doing anything with. So like it may be worth hiring that moving company, right? So
it might be, no kidding.
Yeah.
Switching gears a bit then to because just hearing what you said now with seasonal market is I was listening to it almost like a day ago, you know, in my process, trying to refresh the episodes I hadn't listened to or whatnot. You know, I was doing my preparation for the podcast, and I was wondering, what inspired you guys to start one? Because as far as I know, you guys right now are looking at the only two people in this city with a podcast. Now, you can comment or tell me later in the DMs how I'm wrong to say that, but as far as I know, and as far as what
I'm following, I'm following Sudbury Politics as well. They're putting up some content on not so regular basis, but like that. And then CKLU's got a few things going on as well. So like so basically, I started Lake City Realty because I'm an outside the box thinker. Like, and I want to approach real estate differently than anybody else. Like, again, you're not seeing that picture of us like this because we're doing something different.
You guys are smiling.
Like I really believe in like. It's so easy to say this is the way it's always been done, so this is the way it has to be, right? And that's what like so many people will continue to grow on and to like build their business on is like that's the way it's done, so I have to do it this way too. And I want to challenge like at every way, shape, or form. I want to challenge that. And one of the things is like content, and I'll sit down and I think Tristan Ritchie, who's one of our team, like I remember him in his first year in real estate. He came on, and he's like, Dave, I'm young, none of my friends are buying houses, like what do I do? And I'm like, just start building content. And I honestly think he's the best content realtor in Sudbury right now. Like he's killing it on social, but because he's put the time and energy and effort into building a following and putting the content out there. And today the people that are buying houses, like there is some of them that are asking their mom and dad and they're saying, oh, who's the realtor you dealt with? And maybe that was the experience and that's who they'll deal with. But we're becoming more and more reliant on, you know, like as a millennial, like we're out there searching. We're gonna like go on Google and we're gonna go on like YouTube and we're gonna go ask like our friends on Facebook and stuff like that. Is who did you deal with? And there has to be answers for them. And on a local level, there's not a lot of content answering things. And there's like
Sudbury specific at all.
Templated stuff saying like, oh, like it's like there will be Sudbury or Canadian housing stats or like Toronto market stats or whatever.
Very different though.
But there's not a lot of content happening at a local level, and that's where I'm trying to build the content library that's going to be around in 5 years from now. Because you know, when you're building this content, it doesn't go away, and it's like, you know, from that sales side of it, like we're as much as I can do evergreen material that like I can repurpose and use down the road or whatever. That's stuff that's not going away, and that somebody's going to search for that in 3 years from now, or 5 years from now, or 3 days from now, and they're going to come across something, and they're going to say, oh, like what's this guy all about? And if they see that I've got a library of hundreds of episodes on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts and things like that, then there's going to be credibility there, right? And again, maybe I'm not a good fit, but maybe I am a good fit, and then that's going to be figured out online. And then if I have credibility, then I'm going to be leading the charge in that.
Nice.
So, and like even with the people that come on to our team, like I really try to figure out what they're passionate about. Like my sister Kelly joined our team recently, and her background is as a stager, right? So like I want her to be doing staging content because like that's what she's passionate about. And we have Jen who just joined our team, and she's got a background as a real estate investor, and you know she knows what it's like to buy her first and second and third building. So I want her to be doing content on that. And Tristan's got like tons of experience with first-time home buyers and now step-up buyers and even luxury buyers. So he's doing so much content around that. And Mike's the same. He's got a construction background. So I want to have him doing some. So like again, everybody has a background. And everybody has a story. And if you can put the content that's don't be like lie about it. Be truthful to who you are. But like whatever you're passionate about in your story, like that's going to come across.
Nice. And first of all, I definitely I enjoy listening to it. The audio is phenomenal. I've listened to some that are like choppy or people blowing into the mic. I don't know what's going on.
We struggle with it, and it's not
well.
Great. But yeah, like it's a learning process, and and you can find every excuse in the book not to start, right?
It's so easy.
It's so easy.
It's too easy.
And that's why but what you need is and I remember being in like it was almost our first year in the business, and I looked at Tristan. I'm like, Tristan, by year end I wanted to have a podcast and I wanted to have a TV show. Yeah. And I'm like, I have neither of those things. And he said, let's go. Like we're like go on Amazon, buy a mic, let's start recording.
Nice.
Right, and that's what we did, and we just started hitting the ground running. So
that's sick. And now tell me a bit about your show.
TV show's not there yet, but it's something that I want to grow towards. Tristan tried with a vlog, and you're doing an excellent job of consistency. And again,
nice.
you the biggest thing you want to do is you want to have consistency when you're going to go all in something. You want to make sure it's there. Yeah. So again, I fully will take control. I realize it's an excuse right now that I'm not putting the time and effort into it. But down the road, and as a 2020 vision before the end of the year, which is we're closing in on, it was my goal. But again, if I come up short and it's going to be pushing to 2021, then that's okay too.
Yeah,
so.
And it is definitely something that you also shouldn't really rush. This is my second podcast I've ever done. I had one originally that I did for 6 months with a buddy of mine, but it's weird having a co-host. We tried to do a lot of things, and one good thing came out of it, as much as it fell through in the end. The best thing that came out of it was now I knew what we wanted. We both were like, hey, you want it this way, which is very different from mine. You want comedy style entertainment. I'm like, I want to focus on self-improvement and actually learning from the guests I have on, and because it's very different style of podcast we were trying to do, but we were trying to mesh them together. So I'd be asking somebody about what their journey was or their advice, but then he'd be asking about what it was like partying when they were his age, and it's like, all right,
it's different things.
Yeah, a little too different. But doing it solo then, and now shifting gears, has made it not only there's a formwork to it, and the goal is always there, right? The goal of kind of sharing your story, and you guys do Sudbury stories as well, right?
Sudbury stories, yeah.
So I think you mentioned I think it was recently, I could be wrong, it was with, I can't remember her name. It was a video with a lawyer, but I can't remember her name.
With a lawyer, Amanda Berloni.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I apologize for not recalling that, but yeah, and you mentioned the vision of it is to share stories from the city that inspire people and everything. And man, that's you. Yeah. That's what you guys are doing. And it's incredible.
But there's so many people like this in the community, right?
And a lot of people.
Sudbury's an awesome place, a really awesome place. So let's lean into it, and let's make sure that we have our voice heard a little bit, right? So there's so many people that are naysayers and hating on Sudbury for whatever reason, and sure, if that's your, I'm a very optimistic person, and the glass is always half full around me kind of thing. So I'm I don't have a place around naysayers usually, but nice. Man, we're an awesome place, an amazing place to raise my kids, to have my family. Yeah. It's I couldn't picture a better place. That's for sure.
Nice. And with that, what do you think makes a strong community, or how do you develop a strong community in this COVID time? Because you guys ran an event the other weekend.
Yeah, we did. We partnered up with Kiwi Park for our pumpkin fest, or pumpkin giveaway. So we sponsored 500 pumpkins, and we're doing a pumpkin carving contest that's actually currently ongoing right now. And we're like, Kiwi Park is such an awesome thing, right? To have this amazing park right in the middle of the city, and just outside the city kind of thing. And but to see the passionate volunteers that are there, and to see Carrie, the executive director behind it, which she's again a rock star, it's such an awesome opportunity to leverage there. And we were able to have a few thousand people, and yet socially distanced the entire time, whether it was s'mores or my sister actually ran the haunted walk, and it was so awesome to see the community come together and support that. But everything Kiwi Park does, the community supports. I feel like there's these these amazing people in the community that want to be there and help out. And plus, during COVID, people have been shut down and forced in their houses, and they're looking for an excuse to get outside.
Yeah, anything.
So I couldn't believe how many people I chatted with that day that were like, man, this is amazing. I've been looking for an excuse to get outside with my kids, and I go outside with my kids all the time, even during COVID, which is just in our yard or whatever. But if you've been stuck indoors with kids, man, that's a tough place to be, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, I can imagine. Man, so with kids, with the business and everything, the marriage and stuff, how do you manage your time? How do you prioritize it all?
It's really tough.
Room for hobbies?
It's really tough, and I think that's one of the toughest parts of our life. Whatever you put your time and your energy into is how to manage your priorities in life. For me, it does come I've shifted my mentality a lot to legacy and what do I want to leave behind and what do I want to be remembered for.
Nice.
So the idea of actually building something and having a place that again, it's not tied to myself, but if my kids can point to something and say, Dad did that, that's really cool. And then you see these people that are leaving leaving money to the hospice, and leaving money look at the Mrs. Fielding, who left all the land to Fielding Park, and if you can have even 1/10 of that, and there is these people that Greta Clark is someone that just recently passed, and she touched so many people in this community. She was such an inspiration, and everybody I got to know her through Camp Quality and the volunteer work that she was doing there, right? But that's the amazing legacy that you want to leave, is not for what you're doing when you're alive and do it the best you can, but for what people tell you about the people that are not around that table, and the stories they're telling about those people. That's what you want to be remembered for, right?
It's whatever. And who was I? No, it's whatever people think, right? And when I was telling I had a buddy of mine who was telling me this the other day, actually on his name's Troy, and he's a strength and conditioning coach, and he's on today's episode of the podcast.
Yeah.
And he was telling me that his father, the legacy he left behind was when he was at his funeral. This is going to be a spoiler if they don't watch the show, but and I guess he was telling me somewhere they're at the funeral, and every single person was coming up to him saying, "Man, your dad was such a hard worker. He stayed late when I was sick. He would do this. He was just such a good dude. He didn't ask for anything in return. He worked so hard." And hard work and discipline was kind of his niche thing that he left behind for everyone. And hearing that, and then hearing you say that, I was like, man, when did it click that was something that you kind of...
Well, I lost my mom just over 10 years ago now, and so she was 53 when she died, which is super young to lose a parent, right?
Yeah. Way too young.
So I was 20 whatever, and so that was tough, but it was amazing having a really supportive wife, and me and my sisters and my dad got super close to the family when we went through all that. But she was that kind of person that I still have people come up to me and be like, that this time she did this for me, or this time she did this, and so nice. I have those stories being told, and she was a walking saint in this world kind of thing, right? So to have a mom that led such an amazing example, and then to try to live up to that, is that's
it's an everyday battle.
It's an everyday battle, and it's going to be something that's a lifelong kind of mission, right? So,
man, that's so cool. Now, on the subject of Sudbury, what I want to know is, do you have a favorite experience from this city, or that you've? So
it's not even really experience, but I was 30 years old when I bought my dream home.
Wow.
How
good for you, man. Wow.
You Sudbury has that ability. Even before that. So our first house we bought in Sudbury was I was 23 or 24, and we ended up on Simon Lake, which was a great place for us and a great starter house or whatever. But at 30, I was able to buy my dream home. And now that I have this home, and it's we have this amazing outdoor lifestyle, and that we live on the lake, and we can take saunas, and we're out there with my family, and my kids are fishing every single morning before school.
Yeah.
In the summer, we'll fish for an hour, and we'll catch some fish, and then we'll just we'll just come upstairs. This this is the ability that I have this this is the lifestyle we're able to live with my family. And like this is the experience of Sudbury. Yeah. It's the outdoors combined with yet we can still go to restaurants and go grab a pub and grab a drink in a pub. We're still a city feel, but yet we're if I want to go catch the Raptors, one of my best friends and I were fortunate enough to catch the finals. Like we went down to Toronto and we were able to get tickets or whatever. So like we went down to the finals, which was an amazing experience last year when we were actually able to go to live sports. But like so we were 4 hours away from that. Right, so like 4 hours away from that, yet you still have this amazing hub of outdoors and wildlife and nature, and you can do these things at 30 years old. Yeah. Whereas like if I'm living in Toronto in the grind, like I'm not doing any of that.
Yeah, it's far to get to a cottage area.
Well, it's like you're going to live in a shoebox apartment. You're going to be doing whatever, and you're going to pay 10 times the prices that you're going to pay here.
Yeah, and it's almost not worth it.
It's like whatever your passion is, right? If work's important to you and like climbing that corporate ladder is important to you, then that's you probably, especially pre-COVID, that was going to be your best opportunity to do that is being in the hub. But here it's like it is that work-life balance, right? And the crazy thing about real estate is I really think that there's something about selling somebody a house that really like is going to shape their family experience, right? So like I'm involved with the ability to introduce them to like the house that they're going to buy and they're going to grow into and have kids in and have like outdoors play space or whatever that looks like and like maybe the kids are going to get like there's going to be family pictures done and like so I'm able to play a part in creating and shaping their family experience, right? And I think that's the really fact that I've been able to benefit so much from where I am in that lifestyle that we're living, and I can kind of play a part in giving that to other people. Like that's one of the things that I'm most passionate about real estate.
Jeez. Man, that sounds really cool. That's a really cool way of putting it. And with this city, I've noticed a lot of things where, so being out west, my aunt would often say like, Sudbury, and a lot of, like you said, there's a weird, I was thinking about this earlier today as well, but there almost seems to be, I don't know if you noticed it at all, but a stigma around the city.
Yeah, like I thought, like I think we did have a stigma, especially when we were tied to like being a mining city.
Yes.
But like we're no longer a mining city, and we're like even the mining that's happening, like the Sudbury Mining Week group has done such an awesome job of being like mining is super technical nowadays, and it's done. There's more technology in the mining industry than there is in tons of other industries. And the idea that we're the research hub. We've got so much going on from like from the snow lab, but also like if you look at that corridor, like all down Walford Road, like the amount of research jobs that are there, and like including my alma mater of Morocco, where I started the interview off of my first job. But like it's like we have this hub of these awesome research jobs that are there. Plus we have the School of Medicine, where like we're a teaching hospital here. We're the Cancer Center for the North. And then we have other things like the education jobs we have and the CRA jobs we have. Like we are a completely diversified city. And on top of that, we've got a university and 2 colleges too. So like we've got the post-secondary education that people are coming here for too. So we've done an amazing job of differentiating ourselves away from being that mining town. And like I think the further we got away from that, that's when the stigma's left. And there's still people that say, "Oh, I don't want to be in Sudbury, where it's just barren rock or whatever." But they can leave.
Yeah, more they can leave more for us.
For me, yeah.
That's the way to see it. Man, I really like that outlook you have on it a lot. Because there's, like I said, there's a lot of weird stigma we're all trying to get rid of. And I was talking with my hairdresser earlier, it's like last week, whatever, about that exactly. And that there's almost like a inability to change or be adaptable to the change. Especially now that COVID's kind of being a thing, now that schools are starting, and now that there's a few cases now at Llewellyn.
Tough.
Yeah. So there's a lot of that. That's kind of it's nerve-wracking.
But like the inability to change is based on the individual.
Right.
And like I think like there's enough people in Sudbury that are kind of challenging the status quo and saying, like that's the way it was done before. But like just because again that same mentality I bring to real estate, but there's tons of people that are bringing that to everything, right? It's like that's what my parents did, but just because my parents did it doesn't mean I have to do it, right?
Right.
I think that's just our generation that's reclaiming themselves, kind of thing. And the work from home is like the COVID has actually kind of made Sudbury even more attractive because you don't need to be in the hub and you can be remote.
Right.
And the other thing that I've really noticed on from like especially around the work from home and with COVID is like I had a lot of friends that they had the goal of going to Southern Ontario and creating their careers or whatever and coming back to Sudbury in 20 years or whatever.
Oh, okay.
those
cool.
people have fast forwarded that decision a lot of times, and they said, you know what, family's important to me. We no longer have to be there, so like, why not come to Sudbury 5 or 10 years earlier and start building my family bases here now? So yeah.
Nice. So now, kind of, you guys, and you were telling me this, at the end of your episodes, you do, with your guests, right? You'll typically do like a firing round, right? So I kind of, so are you up for a few?
Of course, I'd love to.
So they're mainly specific, there's mainly for the city itself, and you gave me one of the ideas, and I wanted to, my idea with this was I want to kind of compare answers, because I'm really curious, because you're a few years older than me, and I want to kind of compare. Right?
Yeah, for sure.
So, best date spot.
Best date spot would be, like, how can you go wrong with the boardwalk? Like, it's just such an awesome space. You get outside.
That's a good call.
You get outside. You're right on the lake. That kind of
good.
thing. Like, it's like, and that's like, honestly, it's a cheesy thing. It's not really the greatest thing.
Good.
But like, that's where, like, if me and my wife are able to get away from the kids for a couple hours, like, that's where we're gonna. Yeah. We'll maybe grab a coffee or grab a drink on a pub somewhere or whatever. But we'll probably hit the boardwalk on the way home.
Damn, that's a good one. That's a good one. I had go-karting.
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 Are you a
mini
big go-kart guy? Yeah.
I love it. Man, there were some days I'm driving around with my friends or drop them off and be like, hey, dude, what are you doing for like the next 30 minutes? Like, nothing. I'm like, all right, go-karting. What do you think?
Is the batting cage still open there too?
Yeah.
It's been a few years since I've been back there, but like my kids are actually just at that age where probably in 2 or 3 years from now they're going to really enjoy that. So I'm looking forward to rediscovering that with my kids. That's for sure.
Nice. I'm not good at the batting cages, so I'm sure they'll have a good time though. So, best spot to see the sunset.
Honestly, it's like, I'm gonna make everybody super jealous, but like my living room is like, there's not a place in this world in Sudbury that's a better sunset than my living room. Yeah, and it's like it sets over the lake, over a mountain, and it's like the reddest sunset you can ever get. It's like every single day I pinch myself when I'm looking at that from that view. And I've taken, if anybody that follows me on Insta, I usually like will take a chance to put on my story or whatever. But like it is the most gorgeous.
That's
spot.
where it's from.
Yeah.
That was the same place where your sunrise photo was?
So that was in my front yard today. Yeah.
Oh, man, come on.
Yeah. Again, this is where like we have this ability in Sudbury to be able to be in the country and have these things, right? So. And
that was, like you said earlier, the coolest spot about Kiwi Park, where it's like 10 minutes from my girlfriend's house. And she lives in a very...
She's right downtown.
City area,
and in 10 minutes she'd get there, and she's like, I don't know if you guys are enjoying Crowley Lake or whatever. Like,
yep.
I
went to it 2 weeks ago.
And then even if not, if you want to be even closer to town, then the Sudbury Boat and Canoe Club, like, you just go get your stand-up paddleboard pass for the year, your kayaks, like, just take use of it, make use of what's there.
And every single day, or almost every day, I'd have a buddy, shout out to you, Devin. Him and I, or one of us would message the other, go, hey bro, you want to go jump in the lake? Yeah, 25 minutes drive. There, jump in the lake, back in like the opposing living room. It's like within half an hour. It's incredible.
Think about that idea of being in Toronto where there's no lakes and stuff like that. It's just like I couldn't understand that. But like the idea of we love it. Like I've been in the lake in our, like we live on Black Lake where we are just in Lively, and I've been in the lake every month except for February, I believe, right now. So like that's where
you went in January,
March we've been in, yeah. March break we're in every time. Even if you have to go with an axe and chisel the whole up.
What's that like? It's cold.
We got fire the sauna up and you're fine.
Oh, yeah. Your kids go in and everything too.
So I like my kids. If it's too cold, we're not going to the kids. But I hold their hands and I dip their if I dip their ankles, that's level 1. If I dip them up to their knees, that's level 2. If I dip them on their whole body, that's level 3 kind of thing. Yeah. So yeah.
Goes ankles and knees all the way.
Yeah, I'm usually the waist, and then it's like full of
like, oh, are you good?
And that way I can up and down.
Oh, that's incredible. So, do you know? I think it's Sunrise Ridge, right?
Sunrise Ridge, yeah.
Now, the first left that you take at the end, there's like a construction zone. There's a big sign.
Yeah.
That's probably one of my favorite spots.
Yeah.
That, and then there's I think up by Dynamic Earth is always good. Again.
So Dynamic Earth in the parking lot, or where you? Okay, I haven't taken it from there, but honestly, like it's the best thing in the world is to be able to like take that stuff in, especially in the summer when it's like the days are long and it's like 10 o'clock and you got the sun that's like this red sky just like dipping over the background.
Almost midnight.
It's amazing.
Yeah. No, it's the best part, I think, and there's a lot of places in, like you said, Southern Ontario, a lot of city areas, man. I can't even fathom how far I have to go to see a sunset. It was rough when I was in school.
The thing for me too is like the light pollution. Like where we are, there's no city lights or anything like that.
Really?
So it's like you look up like our hot tub hasn't been working in a while, but like we look up from the hot tub and there'd just be like the whole like star, like it just stars all over the sky, right?
Wow.
So like that's like such an awesome opportunity where like you go to a bigger town and there's light pollution everywhere, whether it's in apartment buildings or just houses or whatever kind of thing, right? And we can definitely have those places in Northern Ontario that don't have that.
Nice. Now, Sudbury released this thing, I think about a week ago, about more bike stands and stuff being placed outside of businesses. I was curious if you read anything about that or saw into it.
I know that they're doing the widening of the bike lanes, especially down Paris Street. Like that's one place, and we own the building here. So because I own the building, I'll get the notices in the mail of the different construction projects that are going on. I haven't heard about that, but like.
I don't know if it's
one of my teammates drives an electric vehicle, and I told him I'd love to get an electric vehicle plug here. Like I want to be like, and I know that there's an app that would show like everyone that has that kind of thing. So like the idea of extra bike parking or EV plugs or whatever is needed. Like I love that idea of kind of offering those things in the future, because again, that's what I like. I like the idea of thinking outside the box and non-traditional ways, and like encouraging like alternate forms of transportation or whatever they need to be, right? So
nice. Now, David, to kind of wrap it up and close, do you have any last piece of advice or word you kind of stick with the audience can keep with them before I have you on again, hopefully in the future?
I think the biggest thing that I can think of is like a lot of people, especially young people, look at fail like I'm going to talk about two different things, but they look at like failing and that as a negative, and failing is like one of the biggest positives you can be, because by failing, it means you tried something, and you probably tried something different, or you tried something unique, and you're not going to learn in this life by just watching other people. You're going to have to try things, and failing is like that's definitely something you have to go through. You have to go through different experiences and things like that, and it might not be successful, but that's okay. Like it's just, continue, be at it, and hopefully that's not going to get you down, and you're going to be able to try again. But from our first conversation with around your podcast and everything, the idea of people. I remember being in second year high school, and I think it was like you're picking, and you're like, oh, am I going to be in college classes or university classes? And like you're basically picking where you want to go at that point. Yeah. And like it frustrates me to no end that like we're teaching kids at 13, 14 years old, whatever they are at that age, that like this is the path that you're going to take, and this is what you're going to be. Yeah. Like I love saying, like I don't know what I'm going to be when I grow up. I'm sitting here, I'm 35 years old, and like, I've been successful on from a different perspective or whatever you can call that or whatever, but like, I don't know what I want to do when I grow up still. Like, and that's a fun part of it. Yeah. Like that makes life exciting, because like I'm doing something I really like to do now. What does life look like in the future? I don't know. I'm open to new experiences. I'm open to new learning, maybe starting other businesses or whatever that looks like. Right. But like, figure out what you do well, figure out what you're good at, and go all in on that. Like that's the Gary Vee mentality, where like stick to your strengths. If you're not great at something, sure, but maybe you need to improve a little bit. But like stick to your strengths and focus on those things, and the rest do something you're passionate about, and the rest of the things are going to work out.
Easy. Sounds really easy when you put it in words like that too.
Well, now you actually do the hard work.
Yeah, the hard work. Although, like you said, if you like it, it's not that bad. Like especially when it comes to the show, I enjoy the hell out of listening to everything you're saying, writing down structured points I want to talk about, and reaching out to the next person, waiting, chatting, hearing what they have to say, editing for hours, so.
You're on the grind, bud, and you're doing a fantastic job. Keep it up. Like
man, it means a lot.
45. I can't wait to be episode, when you hit 100, that's when I'll be back on.
That'd be sick. Yeah. Man, I'm trying to have I have a vision of what I want to talk about, who I want to talk to it with, because I think there's a very certain level I want the podcast to get to, and I know I can drive it, but I know the guests driving it as well. It creates that community that is the show.
Well, and that's what, like, especially getting the word out on a local level, like the idea of being able to market it, where you like link me, and then I'm linking people that I know, and I'm spreading the word out there, right? So like that's how you really spread from there. But